Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We're glad you could join us for tonight's City Council meeting. Your time and involvement mean a lot to us. For the record, it's April 17th, and the time is 6:30 p.m. I'll begin with the roll call, so Council, when I call your name, please say here or present. Mayor Maxton.
Here.
Councilmember Stroop.
Here.
Councilmember Roden.
Here.
Councilmember Olvera.
Here.
Councilmember Kerner.
Here.
Councilmember Parker.
Here.
And Councilmember Swarig. Here. With 7 members of council present, a quorum is declared.
Thank you, Christina. And would everybody please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A reminder to everyone here tonight that our meeting is being live broadcast. We would like to welcome everybody that's here in the room with us as part of tonight's meeting, but also welcome all of those that are joining us as part of the live broadcast. For those that are here in the room, if you do get an opportunity to speak as part of the meeting tonight, I would ask that you make all your comments from the podium up here and use the microphone that's at it. The reason for that is the individuals that are watching online cannot hear the comments unless you use one of the microphones here in the room. And when you do get an opportunity to speak, I'd ask that you introduce yourself, state your name, and then also if you're a resident of Fair Oaks Ranch or not, or if you're here with an agency, what agency that you are here from. And with that, we'll move on to our citizens to be heard. We have several individuals that signed up for citizens to be heard. And first is Mary Kay Brand.
Thank you for hearing me. What I'm getting ready to say may seem a little bit insignificant, and it's probably attached more to an HOA issue. However, I do believe I have a pretty legitimate argument. I live in the Gardens with an HOA, and I've had an issue with our yard contract company for about the last 10 years. That's been pretty much unresolvable. I've got a board member right now that's a little bit more, he's interested in the issues. But we have a problem with a lot of leaves in our with the trees. And those leaves collect over the years, and our yard people are contracted out to collect the leaves and to bag them and to rid them. The issue is over the course of these years, these leaves have built up and literally destroyed our property. So we've got issues with this yard service where they are literally destroying our yards. The lady across the street literally ended up paying $1,700 because her yard was completely destroyed and she had to bring sod in. And with that, and then I had to hire someone for $700 to come in and collect the leaves over the last several years. Also, when they mow, they are shaving our grasses, and so in the midst of drought, it's killing our yard. And so we've had issues with them bringing disease onto our properties, with them destroying our yards and not collecting the leaves. When they do collect the leaves, behind me is the ravine that is the drainage system for the city, and they're blowing all of these leaves into the drainage. So you've got a buildup of drainage. I've reported this about 4 times now over the course of 10 to 15 years. And these guys still pour the leaves. They blow the leaves into, I have video of them blowing leaves into the drainage. What that ends up happening also is creating a problem where we have to use excessive water in order to maintain and keep our water, our yards, alive. And I'm calling for, what I'm asking is that I'm proposing that we implement at the city level some measure of minimal restrictions and regulations for any yard people coming into the city, that they would have to register, that they would have to be bonded, and that we would have simple restrictions, minimal restrictions or requirements for, like, during hot weather, that the mowers have to maintain a level of, like, level 4 on their mowers, that they can't use weed eaters, that they're going to have to collect, rather than, if they can't blow efficiently and remove the leaves effectively and without harming our yards, that that they at least bag them. But the issue is, I brought the code enforcer, Robert, out. And I have a member of the board that's looking at this now. But this is something that's been going on for 10 years. The lady across the street, 90 years old, she's having to get out there and rake and so both of us are literally having to do the work for us. But I realize that this is on a personal level, but I'm just wondering, I would love for the city to partner at some point in some way to implement a policy that requires yard people to hold to at least a minimal standard, in the same light that you do with the tree people that come in, that trim trees, because just for the protection, I feel like there is nothing in place. We have no recourse for any yard service. We have no recourse for those who come in and destroy properties, whether it's intentional or unintentional. But I feel like we need to have some guidelines. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight and your comments. But just as a reminder, since this wasn't an item posted on our agenda tonight, it's not something that we can discuss. But we did get your comments, and I believe you provided a copy of your comments to all the council members. All right. Next on the roster is Kevin Cox.
Hello, I'm Kevin Cox, and I am a resident of Fair Oaks Ranch. I'm here tonight to express my opposition to the Gateway Monument project. I strongly disagree with moving forward with this project. I believe this project is financially irresponsible, hasn't been properly communicated to the residents of the city. I think it's crazy to spend $224,000 on a fancy sign welcoming people to the city. The city's stated justification of this project is as follows, and I quote, "The use of MDD funds for a gateway monument represents the use of sales tax proceeds to develop an asset that will provide long-term value to the city by reinforcing a positive image of the community and supporting future economic growth. The gateway monument will enhance the entryway into the city and establish a strong visual identity, promoting civic pride and supporting the beautification of the city," end quote. My question is, what future economic growth is the city trying to encourage? The issues of reinforcing a positive image of the city, promoting civic pride, and supporting the beautification of the city are all very subjective. There is no fact-based return on investment for the $224,000 expense. Who are you trying to impress? Council members, this is your opportunity to vote on this issue just a few weeks before an election. I'm sure the results of tonight's vote will be published on social media, and you will have to stand up to your position. I also wonder if this project will have a big sign posted at the construction site like the sign posted by the Drainage Project at the corner of Fair Oaks Parkway and Dietz Elkhorn, showing the cost of the project, listing the names of the contractor, the city council, et cetera. If you approve this project, I think you should post that sign showing the $225,000 cost of the project, but I doubt this will happen. I don't really think you want the residents to know what this project cost. I think the Fair Oaks residents will drive by this construction site and wonder what is being built because it's not been properly communicated. And if it was, I believe most residents would reject the wasteful spending. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you for your comments tonight also. Next, we have Rachel Dominguez. And are you and Miguel Canton going to come together? Okay.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm going to let Miguel start off.
Hi, Amanda. Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. My name is Miguel Cantu. I'm the City Secretary for the City of Great Forest, and I also serve as the Vice President for the Alamo chapter of the Texas Municipal Clerks Association. I'm nervous. So I'm here today to express my gratitude to your City Secretary's office for their outstanding contributions, not only to your community, but to the professional development of municipal clerks across the region. I want to recognize your City Secretary, Christina Picosio. I have had the privilege of serving alongside Christina on the Alamo Chapter Board for nearly 3 years. As our chapter's treasurer, she has consistently demonstrated deep commitment to transparency, accountability, and integrity, qualities I greatly admire and believe are essential to our profession. Today, however, I'm especially here to honor Miss Amanda Valdez. For extraordinary leadership as president of the Alamo chapter for the years of 2023 to 2024. Under Amanda's presidency, the Alamo chapter set a new standard, not only locally, but statewide. Despite having membership of about 60 cities, Amanda opened the doors of opportunity across Texas. She welcomed all city employees, regardless of department, municipal court, police department, public works, and even members of the public, to benefit from the trainings our chapter had offered, led by professional experts. This inclusive approach had never been practiced before within our organization and demonstrated the power of unity and cross-departmental collaboration. Amanda also championed efforts to foster leadership in underserved cities, ensuring that smaller municipalities had access to resources and guidance often limited to larger jurisdictions. Her vision helped create more empowered, informed, and connected municipal workforce. As a result of her bold and inclusive leadership, the Alamo chapter was named Texas Municipal Clerks Association Chapter of the Year, a well-deserved honor. Even now, the Texas Municipal Clerks Association, state level, is adopting many of the practices and initiatives introduced under Amanda's leadership, a testament to the lasting impact of her service. Mayor and City Council, thank you for supporting your dedicated staff and allowing them to extend their talents and leadership beyond your city limits. They have helped to shape a stronger, more unified community of municipal professionals across Texas. Amanda, on behalf of the Alamo chapter and all those you've led, mentored, and inspired, thank you. I really do appreciate you and miss you. It's been a true honor serving under your leadership these past 2 years. Thank you.
So my name is Rachel Dominguez. I am the City Secretary with the City of Windcrest, and Amanda passed the baton to me. So as you can hear, I have quite big shoes to fill. So I serve as the president for the next 2 years. We are here to honor Amanda Valdez for her sincere appreciation, of her leadership, vision, and unwavering commitment towards the Alamo chapter of the Texas Municipal Clerk Association.
Yay.
you so much. Let me get in the back. Yeah.
Please.
Oh, maybe you should move over here. You're in front of the dais.
That's
Come
okay.
on, come on,
Come
come
on.
on. I know.
Thank you, everyone, for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council.
He always bears gifts.
He always does. Where's Carol?
Always does.
Carol's part of our Alamo chapter membership as well, and so thank you, Carol. I've called on her several times for help, but she's always
This should be a new rule.
Thank you for your time.
Well, this comes across as a very planned surprise for Amanda.
Yes. Thank you so much.
And, yeah, thank you all for being here tonight and
Thank you.
for putting this together and recognizing Amanda in front of, you know, city council, city staff, and our residents for all that she's done.
Most definitely. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good night.
That was all the individuals that I had signed up for citizens to be heard. Is there anybody else here tonight that did not sign up that would like to speak? Okay. We'll move on to our consent agenda. We have 5 items on the consent agenda for tonight. First is the approval of the April 3rd, 2025 regular city council meeting minutes. Second, approval of the second reading of an ordinance amending the City of Fair Oaks Ranch Code of Ordinances, Chapter 3, Building Regulations, Article 3.03, Building Code, Article 3.04, Residential Code, Article 3.05, Energy Code, Article 3.06, Plumbing, Article 3.07, Electricity, Article 3.08, Mechanical Code, Article 3.09, Fuel Gas Code, Article 3.11, Swimming Pools and Spas, and Chapter 5, Fire Prevention and Protection, and finally, Article 5.02, Fire Code. Item number 3 is approval of a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with Purdue, Brandon, Fielder, Collins, and Mott LLP for the collection of delinquent utility accounts and execution of all applicable documents by the city manager. And item number 4 is approval of the first reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fair Oaks Ranch, Texas, amending the Fair Oaks Ranch Code of Ordinances, Chapter 12, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 12.01, General Provisions, Section 12.01.002, Stop and Yield Signs by establishing a 4-way stop intersection at Battle Intense, High Echelon, and Hansel Drive. And item number 5 is approval of the first reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fair Oaks Ranch, Texas, amending the Fair Oaks Ranch Code of Ordinances, Chapter 12, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 12.01, General Provisions, Section 12.01.003, Prima Facie Speed Limit, by reducing the maximum speed limit on Nola Hase between Fair Oaks Parkway and East Elkhorn Road to 25 miles per hour. Is there any council member that would like to remove any of these items from consent to consideration? Yes, sir. Okay.
Excuse me, I can't hear you.
Scott Parker would like to move item number 8 from consent to consideration.
And number 6.
And number 6.
That's my request. Yeah.
Ruben Olvera would like to remove item number 6 from consent to consideration. So we'll move them to consideration. We'll do 6 and 8 to start off our consideration items. With the any other? With the remaining 3 items in consent, which is items 4, 5, and 7, can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move.
Second.
Ruben,
Second.
All in favor of approval of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved.
Mayor, who was the second?
Emily.
Emily?
Sorry, my voice isn't working.
With that, we'll move on to item number 6 as part of consideration, which is approval of a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with Purdue, Brandon, Fielder, Collins, and Mott LLP for the collection and delinquent utility accounts, execution of all applicable documents by the city manager. And this is on page 16 of the agenda packet. And Clayton, are you gonna,
Yes, sir.
let me turn it over to Ruben first. And what questions did you have related to it?
Just one quick question. So it's no cost to the city, but they get paid by a percentage of the collection of their fees, correct?
Correct, yes.
And it's a 30% percentage is what they collect.
Correct, on top of whatever that fee is.
Is the 30%, is that standard law firm rate for this type of legal work?
It is, yes. The law firm that we're partnering with, they have a lot of similar contracts, and this is like a standard, industry standard rate for this.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Okay.
Any other questions? Then can I get a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with Purdue, Brandon, Felder, Collins, and Mott LLP for the collection of delinquent utility accounts and execution of all applicable documents by the city manager?
So move.
Ruben? and a s-
Second.
Any other discussion from council?
Excuse me,
Motion on-
Mayor, who seconded?
Keith?
Thank you.
With the motion on the table, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thanks, Clayton. And item number 8, approval of the first reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fair Oaks Ranch, Texas, amending the Fair Oaks Ranch Code of Ordinances, Chapter 12, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 12.01, Provisions, Section 12.01003, prima facie speed limit, by reducing the maximum speed limit on Nola Hosse between Fair Oaks Parkway and Detail Corner Road to 25 miles per hour. And this item is found on page 32 of the packet. And Scott, I'll turn it over to you. Any questions?
I guess I'll direct this towards Carol. I remember when we talked about this last. My concern goes back to something I think that we discussed before as to whether or not this is a necessary move. I think that, one, the question is there some other way we can handle the speed issue by perhaps non-binding signs or dangerous curve or taking a look at some other way to go ahead and address the speed issue. My concern is that I don't want to turn Fair Oaks into a city where we have different speed limits on different streets and people are trying to keep ahead of staying within the rules. I think most of our residents are pretty good at that. And perhaps not myself, but the statute of limitations is probably run on my last speeding ticket. But I am concerned that we don't paint ourselves into a corner for making a mountain out of a molehill by having different speed limits assigned to different parts of the city. And I just wanted to get that out there for my fellow council members to see whether or not this is a path that we actually need to go down. I know it came to us from the TSAC, but I'm not sure that going ahead and changing the speed limit for something that's really, I wasn't convinced that it was a problem when it came to us last time, and so changed my mind. That's all I've got, sir.
I understand Scott's point of what he's bringing up, and it's something that I had a concern with when we get a lot of issues related to speed limit concerns throughout the city. And some of these are raised because a belief of people speeding on the road, and that we reduce the speed limit will get people to comply with the current posted speed limit. So, if the belief is speed limit's 30 and we post and people are going 35, if we reduce it to 25, people will go 30. And I'm not sure that we're addressing the issue in that manner. We're trying to find a fix for a possible solution. As these issues are brought to the TSAC, I think thorough analysis needs to be done, and I agree with Scott. We don't want to set a precedent that puts it across the city that every street in the city should be looked at and we reduce the speed limit on it. And a reduction of 30 to 25 is not a significant reduction, 5 miles an hour. And if you go 5 miles an hour, it's not significant. I have driven this road multiple times. It is a winding road that has lots of cars parked on it. In this case, I do support reducing the speed limit. We did have several residents, I believe, that came and spoke as part of the TSAC committee. I would see moving forward with this one, but also would ask that as future ones are brought to the TSAC, that real analysis is put to it to determine which ones need to be brought forward to council. Yes, sir.
I just had, Carol just had a question, because I can't recall all the comments made when this was presented, but how many residents were involved in wanting the speed limit reduced? Do you recall?
I'm sorry, there was one resident that submitted and came to TSAC along with 2 other local residents.
Okay, and do we know how many homes were on that street? I don't off the top of my head.
From the depiction we showed on the map, it was, I don't know the exact number, but there was a lot of rooftops from Grand Coteau or Sumter on Nole Hase itself. I'm sorry, there is a presentation. This presentation was in case I had the question about how many speed signs. So you can see, and it's kind of faint, but Nole Hase is the street that goes from Fair Oaks Parkway to Deeds. So there's the rooftops on both sides.
Okay.
And then, of course, you have the side streets like Sumter, Grand Coteau. So unfortunately, I don't have the number, but people that would use that street also are coming from the Parkway or Deeds Elkhorn.
Okay. So we had one person submit to the TSAC, 2 other residents were in support. And then TSAC do their evaluation, and this was their recommendation.
Based on the notice of the blind curves that's possible, the amount of traffic that was being purported that is using it as a cut through from Deeds Elkhorn and Fair Oaks Parkway, and the residents seeing excessive speeds with many of these homes family-oriented with children and elderly. So based on those findings, they felt reduction of the speed limit was warranted.
And this is the one with all the stop signs on it, because I can't read it as far away.
Yes, this was, in case you all asked tonight, how many stop signs, because I had put on the cover page approximately 5. This was the proposed locations that this is by no means confirmed. This is if we decided to put speed limit signs, not stop signs, I'm sorry.
Oh.
These were the locations for the proposed speed limits. It would take about 5 or 6 signs.
Thank you.
Because I believe traveling it, there are no stop signs.
There are no stop signs.
Well,
I
that's what I wanted to
apologize.
clarify. Being read, I thought, it says stop sign, so I was
Yes.
concerned. Okay.
Yes.
Did any of the residents speak in opposition of lowering it?
No resident spoke in opposition, nor did we receive any emails or communication.
One more question. How are the residents engaged to consider that? Did we contact them, or do we know?
We did not, neither TSAC or staff.
Okay.
I believe the couple that spoke, they just talked to their neighbors.
Okay.
Good questions. Anybody else? Any questions from anyone here tonight? Then can I get a motion to approve the first reading of an ordinance amending the City of Fair Oaks Ranch Code of Ordinances, Chapter 12, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 12.01, General Provisions, Section 12.01.003, prima facie speed limit by reducing the maximum speed limit on Nole Hase between Fair Oaks Parkway and Deeds Elkhorn Road to 25 miles per hour.
Second.
Jonathan, and a second from Ruben. Any other discussion from council? Yes, you can make comments.
I appreciate the
efforts from the TSAC committee. But I'm a little worried that we're making decisions based on a couple of people coming forward and saying we want to lower the speed limit, and then it goes to the TSAC, nobody else comes, no, I don't know what outreach, if any, was done. And then it comes to us as, well, you know, the TSAC committee wants to do this based on just a couple of people coming forward. And so I have a little bit of a concern that that's gonna set a trend for future requests. And I just feel like maybe there needs to be a little bit more done before making that kind of decision. Just on the pure concern about setting a precedent like that.
I kind of echo that concern, and maybe one of the things that TSAC can consider is when this is up for consideration in a situation like this, that maybe the residents are contacted to say, this is what we're considering, get feedback from the residents, and then take it from there. I think the TSAC's just getting started, so we're all kind of working its way through the process, and so I think they've done a great job, but I think since there's just a handful, not even a handful, that I would be supportive of something along that line to make sure people can express their opinion.
Yep, good comments, thanks.
I actually have a question. Sorry, Carol, I should
That's
have
okay.
thought of it before. In the past, before we had the committee, and if the staff was considering lowering a speed limit on a road, did you guys do studies before? I know we did that with Noble Ark, but I didn't know if that was separate. But do you normally do some type of study?
So since I've been managing, overseeing the Public Works Department, I do not recall of any study unless it was a specific study directed to us by the City Council, such as Noble Ark.
Okay. I
Yes.
wasn't sure what our normal process was.
I don't think, looking at the past, we've had as many requests as this. It's the formation of TSAC, I believe, has brought people to this. They feel like they have an avenue now.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have the same concerns that Emily and Keith had brought up.
Well, this is a first reading, so it'll have to come back as a second reading. Is there any survey or any way we can get information out before the second reading is conducted, so we get some feedback?
Sure, we'll just postpone the second reading until,
Well, we have 2 weeks, so. I didn't know.
I'm not sure you will get, we'll try.
2 weeks, to Kara's point, probably be a pretty quick turnaround to try and get a representative sample of the neighborhood. Just eyeballing it, there's probably about 60 houses along that stretch,
Okay.
not counting the peripheral streets that are adjacent or perpendicular to Noliase. So it'd probably be tough to get those pretty quickly. So I don't know if it's with respect to this one or future requests, somewhat to Councilmember Kerner's question. I don't recall either in my tenure seeing any city-initiated speed limit changes or non-citizen changes post reducing the citywide speed limit for the golf carts back in the day. And there's been, we passed a few years ago that were requested specifically by gated communities. We've changed some of those. Those are the last ones I recall, absent the TSAC process or the aforementioned Noble Ark. Typically, if staff would go through, just without respect to TSAC or any other process, typically we would do at least some type of study, or at least count. That's typically done through speed studies. As you all know, through both Noble Ark, we now have radar trailers and our radar feedback signs on Dietz Elkhorn. We're going through that process with one of the TSAC requests that they've been discussing for the last couple of meetings. I would consider that the first and primary step, and traditionally in looking at whether to amend the speed limit up or down. The challenge with that, of course, is we don't have that many radar feedback signs. We have more on order, so they're coming, and I mentioned that to the council several weeks ago. But there is quite a list of requests for items that either have gone to TSAC or are pending for TSAC. So by doing that, that would certainly slow down the process. I'm not going to lie to you, but that if we're looking for data-informed decisions, that would be a strong suggestion I would make that that this body or TSAC look at at least a 30-day study using those feedback signs as a mechanism.
So
But it does take time.
in my neighborhood, we use the app called GroupMe, and I understand that there's other pockets of neighborhoods that use that to, did you get my Amazon package or what have you? And maybe we could at least get some people, if there are any opposed, at least get some bodies to the TSAC to let them know, that way that they could get an accurate count. I mean, I don't know how strict you're wanting to go with this study, but I think if you're just trying to capture opinions, maybe ask, talk to the people that live in these neighborhoods that did, the two that you have. Maybe they have some kind of messaging platform between them all in the group.
I do want to make a suggestion. If we vote no on this motion, I would like to make a motion to refer this item back to committee for study.
So just.
I can't make the motion to refer because it can't be on the table when there's another main motion. I had to pull up my rules, but so we have to decline the current vote first.
Thank you. And as a backup to City Manager Wiesengate, staff's original recommendation to TSAC was to perform a traffic study. So if we want to go that route, which is the route we are currently using for other street requests, the standard has been set. We do. Again, we don't have enough radars for all the requests. We can put it on the list.
How much does a traffic study cost? Like, how much would this cost?
We do it in-house.
Internal?
We do it in-house with our radar devices that we have. And as City Manager Wiesengate said, we typically do it for 30 days. And we do it both eastbound, westbound, northbound, southbound, whichever direction. It's not just one way.
I think I would be more comfortable with that, having an informed decision.
I agree.
Where we're going.
I'm not looking to kill it. I just want more data, right, and before we leap off and just change the speed and have multiple speed zones in the city.
And that is one of the motions you can make, yes?
Yeah, I would like more data and also, like maybe what Jonathan was talking about, just some way to get a little bit more feedback from more than just 3 people.
I was just looking at options that we have. So Jonathan, you made the motion and seconded by Ruben. We could withdraw the motion. I'm still in favor of it. Even having heard it, this is something that council created TSAC. Somebody came in here with a traffic problem. We've had this conversation before. And we said, all right, let's make an instrument for you guys to figure this out yourselves and then bring it back to us. And now they've done that, right? We gave them a hoop to jump through. They went and jumped through the hoop, created the hoop, and then jumped through the hoop. And now it's back to us. I'd say this one I'm okay with personally because I know this road, being that it's one that I go on a golf cart fairly frequently, so I'm okay with it. So yeah, I'm still okay with it. If you guys want to vote against, that's your decision.
I agree with Jonathan. I think that the process went through. It is more of a safety issue. I wouldn't want to disregard this request and this study and this recommendation simply because we're worried about setting a trend, then what other street or what other neighborhood might come forward. I think we should just take it on a case-by-case basis, let TSAC do their job, what they've been doing well. And so if there's a trend, if we're afraid of a trend being set, I think TSAC will catch that trend and maybe, remove the ones that aren't very clear, or maybe more data is needed, so it would never even come to us.
And there's the flip side of it too, that if people start coming in here angry, that the speed limit just got reduced, we tell them go talk to TSAC. I mean, if you do have people that are upset the other way, and then what happens? It'll come back to us, and we're going to raise it back up, or probably not. I mean, I think honestly, a lot of people are going to be okay with this and kind of expect this, just knowing this particular road.
but that is the other side of it. The worst that can happen is it goes back to TSAC because two people come from that neighborhood, you know, and speak up.
Any other comments? With the motion on the table, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 3, 4, and against?
Okay.
Nay.
So the motion does not pass.
I move to refer this item back to committee for further review and study.
Second.
Or a motion to refer back to committee? And seconded by Emily. Any further comments on this? And I would just add to it, is referring back to the committee, I think it would be appropriate to get some type of response back from the neighborhood along the street about their thoughts on reducing the speed limit as part of it. Probably more of a comment back to the TSAC as part of their analysis and what they're doing.
Can I ask a question? When the one resident came forward, did they come forward sort of individually and maybe talk to a few neighbors, or was it more of a representation that he or she had talked to a substantial amount of neighbors?
She noted a few residents in her
Okay.
area, yes. And I believe her home is centrally located on Nole Hassan.
With the motion on the table to refer this item back to committee for further analysis, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. And just for clarification for the TSAC, so when we report back to them, we are looking for response data, not radar placement. I know we talked about radars. I just want to make sure.
Both.
Both, okay.
You vote?
Did both.
Oh, okay.
I just want to make sure. I want to make sure I give them the correct instructions.
Christina, the vote on the transfer back to committee was 6-1, and Reuben voted against. Okay.
Thank
And
you.
Scott, I've been tracking your notes about our live feed. Do we want to take a recess so you can reboot the system, or just drive on?
That's optional. Yes, we are having trouble with the live feed. The meeting is being recorded for posting later. We can either continue and post it later, or if the council wants to recess for 5 to 10 minutes, we can attempt to reset the stream and begin anew. So
Or the
it's
video?
It's the video. So it's not being broadcast to YouTube. So it's kind of a two-part system. It's recorded locally and linked up to YouTube. The link part is broken. So it is being recorded for future posts. So we just can't stream it live right now.
I say we take just 5 minutes and see if y'all can't get it back online.
I think it's worth a shot.
Let's do that, please. Okay.
I have the time, yes. I have the time now is 9:13, and we're going into recess. Right, 7:13. I had 19:13, sorry. 7:13, we're going into recess, and we'll be in recess for 10 minutes.
And if you do approve this item, Clayton will be up next to talk about the construction agreement with the firm.
Yep.
So with that,
Any
I'll take any questions.
So I know we spoke at the MDD. I'm not a fan of the cost. I think you understand why. But with this funding agreement in place, then after a substantial completion, the city will be reimbursed, and so the effective cost to the city after reimbursement is zero?
That's correct. The city is fronted the design, which is $25,000. We would front the construction and get reimbursed at the end for a net zero.
And then the contract, which we'll talk about, is that not to exceed?
Yes, it is.
Any other questions? Any questions from anyone here tonight? Yes, sir.
I just want to make a statement that I think you said it, Mayor, that we had a citizens committee to look at this project and then we, the council, recommended that the city go make a grant request to the MDD, which that's happened and the MDD has approved it, and that this gateway feature has been many times discussed in public forums and in town halls, and of course at our meetings here, if people have a question, they can certainly come ask those questions here or ask us individually. But I think all this has brought us to this point where now we've got a grant that will not end up costing the city any money, and the monies I believe the MDD is funding for this is covered by previously collected sales taxes. So no property tax impact, no impact to the city whatsoever. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there as to a little background on this item on the agenda.
Sure. Thanks, Keith. Anybody else?
Largely agree with the way that Keith laid it out. I mean, that's been my opinion as well. I mean, the thing has survived this long through this many committees, and nobody's shown up to stop it. So it's here now. It doesn't seem like everybody's against it. It seems like the city just wants something to be proud of. I just, I'm a poor Mississippi farmer, so I'm used to smaller numbers. So that's my comment.
Anybody else? And I would add with what Keith and Jonathan provided, what really drove the project was citizens reaching out saying they wanted a gateway feature replaced on the parkway. And that's what really kicked all this off and then led into the timeline that both of y'all spoke about. Then can I get a motion to approve a resolution authorizing execution of a Chapter 377 project funding agreement with Fair Oaks Ranch Municipal Development District for the construction of a gateway monument?
So moved.
I think Emily started first. I'll give you the motion, and Scott, you want the second?
Yes.
Any other comments from council? Motion on the table. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Thank you all. Move on to our next consideration item, which is item number 10, approval of a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with AAA Time Saver Services for the construction of a gateway feature monument. And Clayton?
Thank you. I'm Clayton Holscher. I'm the procurement manager, part of the finance department. I know Scott mentioned in the previous agenda item a lot of the history of the committees and everything and how we got to this point. So I'll really just kind of start off by talking about our bidding process. So we issued a request for proposals on January 7th and had those due on January 28th. We advertised publicly like we do for our other formal projects like this. And we received 3 proposals. The selection was made based on a few different factors: price, the experience of the contractor, and then the project approach, which would be like timeline and way they're going to go about handling everything. So an evaluation committee met and selected AAA Time Saver Services as the highest ranked respondent. They're also the respondent with the lowest bid amount, and initially that amount was $218,000. We met with our engineer, the contractor. We really looked at everything we could, and we were able to get it down some, maybe not as much as we hoped, but we were able to take about $18,000 off of it without sacrificing any of the aesthetics or the integrity of the project. If approved, it's anticipated that it would take approximately 120 days to construct. Actually, that's our maximum amount that we would allow for that. So we're looking at a 4-month project. It aligns with our strategic action plan, item 5.2.2 for developing a brand identity. It also aligns with 5.2.5 of strategic action plan to design and construct a city gateway feature. And then we also comply with our competitive procurement requirements by issuing a request for proposal. Scott mentioned earlier that if approved, it'd be reimbursed by a grant from the Municipal Development District for the full amount. We'd be utilizing our standard construction agreement for this project. So our recommendation is to approve a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with AAA Time Saver Services for the construction of a gateway feature monument in an amount not to exceed $199,840.00. And I'm happy to answer any sort of questions you might have.
Go ahead. Ruben?
We talked about it at the NDT meeting, but could you explain to everyone else the contractor's experience with similar type projects in other municipalities?
Sure. They do a lot of repeat work for the city of Seguin. They're a job order contract for one of the larger cooperative purchasing entities, which we're members of, called TIPS, which stands for the Interlocal Purchasing System. They've also done a lot of work. They've done a lot of work for the city of Seguin, Mansfield, Colleyville, Bexar County. They've done a lot of governmental work. They've been working with the city of Seguin in particular for around 10 plus years. And I did reach out to them, and they spoke highly of them.
And they gave you like exemplar projects or,
Correct.
similar type things that you could take a look at their product?
Yeah, so part of this, instead of just doing a traditional low bid where it's only price, is we're asking for examples of similar projects. So they showed us pictures, cost of similar projects. So, projects that would have a stone fencing component, things that are not exactly the same as this, but would be relevant. So those are some of the things that we looked at when we looked at their project experience, part of the request for proposals.
I would say at this price, the bar is high, or the standard is high, and it should be high. And I don't, whether this is a question or a comment, and I don't know if it's too early for this, but have the residents near the project site been notified? Are they aware? And is there a plan yet, or will it be addressed later in terms of staging equipment and whether or not it's going to impede those residents, whether it might impede traffic, or the vegetation, trees, things like that?
Sure. So no notifications yet. That would typically be done if the project were to be approved. It would be done. We'd meet with the contractor have a pre-construction. We'd go over the whole notification process. Traffic control plan would have to be approved by the city. However, with this one, we're not anticipating any traffic being impeded due to the median and them doing the work in the median. So, however, anything would have to be approved by city staff for that.
Thank you.
Jonathan, do you have a question?
Wait, I think you said you cut 30,000 off the quote. Is that right?
18,000.
Okay, and what was that? Do you have the line item where it breaks it down? Kind of, they spent this much on lighting and this much on the 8 post or however many it was. Do you have that? I'm just curious where they cut it from.
Sure. So one portion was some alternate lights that was just a different model that was spec'd out from our plans. The engineer reviewed that. There's no sacrifice in the performance of that. So we're able to save some with that. Another amount would be to reduce, instead of 30 inches high, the steel beam is 28. So you're just taking an inch off the bottom and the top. As well as the similar stone from a different supplier was also about $3,800. The lights were about $6,500. And then we had some additional savings and then just sharpening of the pencil, to be honest with you.
So I think the lights are something like 21 right now. Is that correct? So you're saying it was like 27?
The lights, getting to my notes, I'm sorry, will be about 21 about 21,500.
So it was 27 and now it's down to 21?
Yeah, we're able to shave off
And
that.
is each letter backlit? Or is there a bar underneath it? I've talked to somebody that says it's a lot easier and cheaper if you put a bar underneath and then backlight the lights from the bar, and it's the same look. But if you go with each letter being backlit, then the price just goes crazy.
And on this one, we are not having individual lights for each. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we're having lights that are projecting onto them, but not a pre-lit light, if I'm understanding correctly.
That's exactly it, yeah. So that's just my question. And then for future, and I have said this before, but I would like to see a more detailed line item breakdown whenever they're submitting these. The one that they did give kind of left me asking a lot of questions that I didn't really have answers to, so.
Sure. And we did meet with the contractor, with half our engineering firm, and we looked at line item by line item just to make sure measurements weren't off, anything like that. And ultimately, this is what we could come up with.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Other questions? Any questions from anyone here tonight? Then can I get a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with AAA Time Saver Services for the construction of a gateway feature monument in the amount not to exceed $199,840.
So moved.
Keith, a second.
Second.
Ruben, any other comments from council? The motion on the table, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The next item that we have under consideration is the consideration and possible action approving an amendment to the Municipal Development District budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2024 and ending September 30th, 2025. And Summer, you going to lead us through this one?
Yes, thank you. Summer Fleming, Director of Finance. So this amendment was approved by the MDD Board at their April 9 meeting and appropriates $224,840 that was awarded to the city for that Gateway Monument project, and the funds are projected to be expended this fiscal year. City ordinance and the MDD rules of procedure require the MDD budget to be approved by City Council, so this amendment is being presented to council for your consideration. That's all I have.
What's the unallocated amount after this is moved over? Do you have that?
I did not bring that
Okay.
with me.
In the MDD funds?
Yeah, for the MDD.
Page 73.
Oh, actually, it might be on there if we deduct out the committed part. 3.6 minus the 1.2 that's currently committed for the other awarded grant. Yeah.
Anybody else? Any questions from anyone here tonight? Can I get a motion to approve an amendment to the Municipal Development District budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2024 and ending September 30th, 2025? From Ruben?
Second.
Jonathan, any other discussion from council? The motion on the table, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Thanks, Summer. So the next item that we have is consideration and possible action approving the first reading of an ordinance amending the budget for the fiscal year October 1st, 2024 and ending September 30th, 2025.
Yes, I'll take this one too. So this is the first reading of an ordinance to amend the city's fiscal year 24-25 budget. And as shown in Exhibit A on page 78, this amendment appropriates $543,629 in the Water Capital Fund for the purchase agreement with the City of Bernie authorized by City Council on April 3rd. It appropriates $199,840 in the Strategic Projects Fund for the agreement just authorized for the construction of the Gateway Monument, and increases the corresponding grant revenue for this project by $224,840 for the reimbursable grant from the MDD.
Pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward.
Any other questions? Anybody? Any questions from anyone here tonight? Then can I get a motion to approve the first reading of an ordinance amending the budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2024 and ending September 30th, 2025?
So moved.
Jonathan? And
Yes.
second?
Second.
Scott? Any other discussion from council? The motion on the table, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Thanks,
Thank you.
Summer. The next item that we have tonight is the consideration and possible action approving a resolution adopting the proposed benchmark organizations for fiscal year 2024-25 compensation and benefits study. And Jimmy, you're going to lead us through this one? Get
Yes,
us
sir.
started?
We'll get you started.
All right.
Okay, so the administration has launched the 2025 update to the city's compensation and benefit plan. And tonight for your consideration is the part of the project where we need to pick our benchmark organizations. A little bit of background before I turn it over. The compensation benefit plan was update was identified in the strategic action plan to be updated in 2025-2026 timeframe. And it was funded in the FY 25-26 budget, FY 24-25 budget. Staff has launched the RFP for this project in late December, and then in late January, the RFP closed, and we had a vendor selected by March and awarded a contract. We awarded a contract to Evergreen Solutions, and we ended up getting right to work. So we're in the early stages of the project. There's actually 12 deliverables in this project, and we're on number 5 right now, which is to get the benchmark cities identified. In your packet, refer to Exhibit A, which depicts the proposed list of benchmark cities. How we got to that probably needs some discussion and some explanation, and that's what Mr. Carl Fuchs is here to do tonight. He's the consultant from Evergreen, the consultant that we hired. And he's going to lead us through that system and how we systematically pick those 20. So, Mr. Fuchs, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Again, my name is Carl Fuchs. I'm a senior consultant with Evergreen Solutions. So I'm going to walk through a little bit of what it is that we aim to do and how this particular segment of the project correlates with everything else that we're going to do as we go through this. So again, our study goals as we go through this are to, we're in a process now where we're taking an internal look at the organization and we ensure that there's an equity between classifications within the organization so that we have appropriate relationships essentially from one classification to another as we go through that. The second phase of that, or the second part of that, is that we're going to go to market and we're going to look at some market peers, which is what we're going to share here in a moment. And we have up to 20 peer organizations per their contractual agreement. And so I've listed out some of them were on our end. I was here a few weeks ago and spoke to, I want to say probably all of the employees of the city as well. And I got some feedback from them during that process as well as to who we should look at as we went through that. And so essentially what we're going to do is we're going to look at the market. We're going to figure out what are comparable classifications within those other organizations and then figure out what's a market comparable salary for individuals within the organization to be compensated with. And so we'll produce those recommendations that'll take both that internal equity hierarchy and the external market data, and we'll again sort of triangulate that to come up with some recommendations that place the city in the best possible position, obviously within the constraints of any fiscal limitations that may or may not exist. So our proposal methodology is that we look at this, and I'll talk to it, and we have two different buckets. And so there's a comparator bucket and there's a competitor bucket. And so I want to kind of make a distinction for that. From a comparator standpoint, what we look at are organizations that are similar in size, so similar in size with number of residents, as well as similar in size with number of FTEs within the organization. That typically has some reflection on the services that are provided as well. And so those are the types of things that we look at with the size of the organization, the operating budget, depending on what any sort of enterprise funds may exist, we want there to be some similarity with operating budget, and then the total tax rate we took into account as well. That was more specific to this project. I haven't actually done that previously, but I know that that was something that was mentioned, so we looked at that, and as we kind of go through those two things, what we can really dissect from there is what are the services that are provided and to what level. I looked at per capita income as well as a metric of this, and as we, the relevance of that really kind of talks to what the quality of life and the standard of living in the organizations are as we look at them. And then lastly is this sort of subjective identity as we go through this, and I would, kind of ping pong this ball back to y'all as an organization and say, how do you see yourselves? And again, so I used this metaphor when I was here a few weeks ago and talking to some of the folks, as well as say, the New York Yankees, not a huge fan, but they exist, see themselves as my wife too, but they see themselves as a premier organization in Major League Baseball. They pay a commensurate salary to have what they consider to be the best players in Major League Baseball. And so if that is where an organization wants to see itself leading the market, and that's how organizations sort of align themselves. Those are one of the things that we would look at. That's an example, not saying that that's what you all need to do. And so those are some of the things that we look at from a metric standpoint when we're looking at comparators. When we're looking at competitors, that aperture opens up quite a bit. In the broader San Antonio, New Braunfels, metropolitan statistical area, there are a lot of other organizations that could be competitors for labor in this particular market. As we went through and kind of talked to some of the folks that work here, there's not a high percentage of folks that live in the city that work for the city. So many of your employees are commuting. And I think that the San Antonio, New Braunfels metropolitan statistical area has an average of about a 25-minute commute broadly. And so we want to look at some of the places that some of those employees might have to drive through to get to work. What is the organization, who are you all competing with for labor in that market? And so we took a look at that across Texas, and so I'll say very specific to this metropolitan area here, and then a little bit more broadly when we looked at some of those other comparative organizations. And this is the list that we came up with here. Again, you can see the statistics that I had mentioned as far as population size, their proximity to this, to where we stand right now, the FTE count, so the number of employees that work for that particular organization, the per capita income, the tax rate, operating budget, and then lastly what we have here is a cost of living index. And so that cost of living index is germane to this conversation because when we do our analysis, we do take the actual salaries or the salary ranges that are being paid in these particular organizations, but what we do is we equalize it and we bring it back to the cost of living index that exists here. And so it's not necessarily inequality of dollars and cents. What it is, it's an equity of buying power for your employee. And so that's what we're looking at as we go through this. There are a few that have asterisks next to them as well, as you can see that on the target list there and in front of you as well. And those asterisks indicate other municipalities that are on the 20 safest cities in the state of Texas. And you can see that they are also comparative in many other areas as well. And so what these recommendations show here is a pretty broad stroke of the brush as far as the competitors. And then really zeroed it in as well as we could for a comparator standpoint and look to have similar metrics in more than one of our criteria area that we looked at. So again, I have seen what y'all used in your past study. Some of them were very consistent with the population that exists here. Some of them were very consistent from a proximity. But what we did is a kind of, again, got a little bit more granular on this analysis, was to find those peer organizations that meet that criteria across more than one, possibly up to all of them, but many of them, 3 or so of those metrics are met here. And barring any questions, that is all I have.
Any questions? What we're looking at tonight is really, it's the approval of the benchmark cities, the approval of this list. Is that, just make sure we're tracking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then, and I think I understand it, that what do we use the list for? And so in comparison, and I ask the question because when I look at the list, there's certain cities that stand out to me that probably are very representative of Fair Oaks Ranch. And then you have cities like New Braunfels, San Antonio, San Marcos that, and so is it weighted? Is it in comparison? Or is it just all cities are considered as part of the benefits and compensation study?
So I don't want to get ahead of too much of this. There are parts of this where this is a collaborative effort on this, and so if that's something that comes up as a discussion as we go through this,
okay.
Those are potential levers that can be adjusted to some degree. But what we look at from this perspective is that we would peer these organizations, or whichever organizations are approved, we would survey those organizations and get what their salary ranges are for if they had a senior consultant on their staff. We would figure out what the minimum for that, the entry level salary is, what's the maximum earning potential for that particular classification as well, and then we take those from all of those organizations and we use, we essentially average them out. And so when we provide that data back, we can look at it from a statistical average, or we can mean it as well, and we can figure out, again, depending on what the fancy of the organization is, we can look at a particular percentile of a market placement, things of that nature. But essentially what we're doing here is this is the one corner of the triangle that shows us what a market equitable salary for that particular, or for the particular classifications that we'd be looking at, what they are,
okay,
very broadly.
I got a little bit ahead, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not wrapping my head around how San Antonio is going to be a market peer to Fair Oaks Ranch. I guess I'm just not understanding that.
Keith.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, I'm really happy we're doing a study because it's been something I've been wanting to get done for some time, and it's time for us to do that. Wanted to be sure that our comp plans are competitive and that we do right not only by the employees but also by the taxpayers. So it's a balancing act. I guess when you're done with this study, you will, I'm assuming you will, maybe this is a question, will you be showing where our employees, based on job descriptions, fit in our current comp plan as compared to the study? Will you be ranking or matching them up so that we can see that if ABC employees X, and this is what the market says, what the disparity is that something you're planning to deliver as part of that?
That is what the output of this
Okay.
is, yes.
And then to Scott Parker's point, San Antonio I'll throw out the door, but I'll sound like I'm schizophrenic here, because on the other hand, we got to compete with San Antonio for talent, right? So I do think it's important to see that, right, as a metric. Mm-hmm. I also feel like that you've identified some cities. I've kind of matched up 4 cities that would be within the hunt for us. It'd be helpful, I think, when you bring the study back to us to see a subset of those cities that are more sized like we are, mm-hmm. okay, and how we compare that, and then how we compare to the broader study. So if, for instance, we have, Bulverde has a pay scale of X, and ours is competitive to Bulverde, but then when you throw San Antonio on the rest, and it might be way over here, we need to do that for our own evaluation. So somehow, If we can stratify it, I guess that's what I'm asking for. I think that would be helpful. And Scott, you probably know what I'm getting at, but just so that we can make a good decision on where our plans sit. I just don't want a big bucket of job ABC pays this in the market and we're here. We need to be able to see that, but we also need to be able to see how it fits within the cities that are our size. Just my thought.
I would like to see comfort.
Hold on a second, Laura.
So I've been through this cycle before. I mean, I think I'm one of the few that was here when we did this last time. And I also was concerned about having San Antonio as a comp city. And I was proven wrong. It was very important that we had it in there. And when we got the results, it gave very good information. We have picked up an amazing person from San Antonio that, at least when we were competitive with it, we were able to bring in our new city manager. Well, he was assistant city manager at the time from San Antonio. So I think it's very important that we stay competitive with that local city.
Yeah. May I address the?
Sure.
So San Antonio, the reason that it's included in here is one, it's the elephant in the region, I think, is the first, if I can phrase it like that. It was brought up a number of times while I was here and speaking to the employees as a competitor for labor. So I think that exists as well. And if I can speak a little bit to, again, its potential ramifications in what it is that we're looking at. Again, as I've talked about, if we come back and look at this, I would say a healthy average for responses would be somewhere between 5 and 10 would be healthy. If we can get beyond that, even better. And so we're looking at an average. And so the reason, and what we do from our perspective as well, is that if we have a classification, we don't render 5 results from it, we exclude it from the analysis and we rely solely on internal equity. And the reason that we do that is, to your point, sir, I think, is that an outlier can have an incredibly significant impact on what the data says. And so without a broad enough data pool, we're just not going to look at it. When we come back and look at what those things are from classification to classification, if things don't look right as we're going through that analysis, we will dig a little deeper. If we come back and we say, oh, that senior consultant over there makes $1.5 million, I'm going to apply for a job. And then also we want to make sure that they're doing the same thing that I would be doing, right? And so, again, so I think the broader context is that these are averaged. And again, if there is a concern of outliers having a huge sway, we would exclude that, regardless if a larger market was included or not included. We wouldn't include that as part of our analysis for statistical continuity.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe a random question, but I noticed out of the targets, I would classify it as Central Texas and then North Texas. Was the Houston area, I mean, they have a lot of suburbs, was the Houston area considered and just excluded, or did you not get into that area as comparables?
Yeah, I did look at, in full disclosure, I've done a lot of work in the Houston area as well. There were some places that we did look at over there as well. I want to say that there's one of them that's over that way. I don't recall which one it might be, but I do know that there's a lot in the Dallas-Fort Worth and then more down this way as well. But it really came down to comparables as far as departments. So if there wasn't a police department, I would exclude it. If there were 2 that were very close and one of them was on the safest cities list, I leaned into that one a bit more. And so again, there are other, I mean, Texas is massive. There's a million other cities we could have looked at. From the perspective of what I looked at, I brought down, your state tax, the taxation rates. I can look at all of them, and I sorted them. I figured out what was close to y'all on that metric. The safest cities we looked at. I know the police chief kindly asked me to don't look at unaccredited police departments, and to whatever degree that was readily available. I don't think that if they're not accredited, they don't usually advertise that. But and so those are things that we tried to look at. Organizations that, to be quite honest, I go onto their web pages and look through their budget books. If they have very similar mission statements and vision statements to what you all have, I looked at that, talking about the feel of where those places are is really what we looked at. And if it's any consolation, and I'm not trying to say anything one way or the other. I just want to let you know that I've worked on somewhere around 115, 120 of these projects. This is the most exacting market peer that I've ever done. I've never presented one to a council for approval before, and so I feel like I turned out some pretty good, potential peers here as we came through it. Again, absolutely open to any input. This is a collaborative effort, and we're tailoring a suit that y'all are going to have to wear, and so want to make sure that you have y'all say in it as well.
And for me, it was just more of like what was missing, and so I just wanted you to explain the process, and that satisfies what I was thinking, so I appreciate the response and explanation.
What's the time frame from time you start to the time you deliver your final results?
So
more or less.
I think it's disclosed in the RFP. It's on our work plan as well. I don't have that memorized, but I'll tell you typically it's somewhere between 120 and 180 days.
Okay.
And if you all pressurize it and say it has to be done by this day, I'll stay up nights and weekends and make sure it's done.
No, I just need to know. I mean, I looked at the RFP, but I didn't remember, so.
Anybody else? I appreciate your comments, and just listening to how you describe it and how you made the selections. To me, I thought, my belief is you did a very thorough analysis in determining what these 20 cities are, and I'm satisfied. Honestly, I think it was a better analysis than what we had previously.
I think it's important to know what your competitors are doing as well. I mean, it sucks losing good labor.
Any questions from anyone here tonight? Can I get a motion to approve a resolution adopting the proposed benchmark target recommendations as presented for the fiscal year 2024-25 comprehensive compensation and benefits study and future market comparisons?
So moved.
Keith, and a second from Emily. Any further discussion from council? The motion on the table, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. Thanks, sir. Our next item is consideration and possible action approving a resolution amending the City of Fair Oaks Ranch's personnel policies. And Jim,
I'm back.
You've been doing all the work on this one?
Oh, no, we've had it. A lot of folks helping out with this work. Thank you, Mayor, Council. Jim Williams again, Assistant City Manager, and we are back for the next round of personnel policy updates. Tonight we're going to go through number 2, the employee responsibilities section, and number 8, leave. The number 8 leave one was very substantial. There was a lot going on in there. Number 2 was fairly simple, so we threw it on this round just to get that off the deck real quick. Let's go ahead and get started. So hold on a second. Let me grab my notes real quick here. Right place. Okay, so the primary reason for change in the number 2 policy, employee responsibilities, it just needed a general cleanup, just some outdated terminology, things like that. We did add a conflict of interest section in there and a disclosure section. So what happens if there is a conflict of interest? The former policy had a little blurb on it, but it didn't go into enough depth, I think, that supervisors would really know what to do when there was a conflict. So in that conflict of interest is a requirement for employees to disclose, and it aligns with our charter, and it also provides for, in that section, who's going to do the conflict analysis determination. It would be the city attorney's office. Some other reasons for the update: it updates the public relations section to pretty much match with our city charter. It matches our current practice as well. Since we, in 2006, we didn't have a communications officer. Now we do. We have all that capability now. It takes the references to telephones, moves them over to Chapter 11, which we've already approved. Time and attendance, that goes over to Chapter 6. And then we ended up looking at the title of it. It didn't quite match employee responsibilities. Once we kind of cleaned it all up, it really is more of a code of conduct, a policy. That should be an appropriate title for that. Any questions on 2 before I go on to the big one? Nope? Okay. So number 8, that, like I said, it was pretty substantial. The big thing that changed in that policy was the FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act section. And in that policy, what we ended up doing was basically parroting off the federal FMLA guidelines And not because we don't know the policy. What we want the policy to do is to be a really good guide for supervisors as they're kind of identifying FMLA issues, and then they know how the city is going to handle FMLA issues when they come up. It also reinforces our current practice in FMLA. There's a bunch of federal guidelines in the FMLA policy, but there's some options that the city has in there. So one of the options is the period of time that we would look back, that we use to decide the eligible period. The city's current practice now is a rolling 12-month period. The other option is to do a calendar year period. We're doing the rolling year period. It's the most efficient for the city right now. The other choice that the city could make is the amount of time that we would give or grant employees if they were in FMLA. The minimum requirement is 12 weeks. We could go higher than that, but right now our standard is 12, so I just documented that in the policy. We also updated the military leave section. There was, again, a little blurb on that in the last policy. There's actually some very strict requirements in USERRA on how we handle that. We just added that in the policy. And then we just a general cleanup to match our current leave administrative practices. When you look in there, you see the amount of leave that is accrued by the accrual rates for staff. There is a request from the staff. We're staffing this through the organization. We do have a bereavement leave policy right now that says 3 days. Staff requested that to go to 5 days, just to add a little more time to take care of those things when they happen. Some other reasons, the leave approval process, really, again, in the theme of the other policies that we're updating, we're pushing a lot of approval processes and engaging our supervisors a little bit more. This does that. It updates our vacation and accrual rates. It matches our current practice and what the council has already approved. It adds supervisor guidance on really if we're suspecting sick leave abuse, like how to handle that in a fair way. And it updates our current practice for jury duty. It just documents that in there right now, how we handle that leave. There is one section, there was a request to add 1 hour of paid admin leave to vote. And after we published this, we just kind of took another look at the Texas Elections Code. And basically, Texas Elections Code requires all employers to provide at least 2 hours of time. And so we got to thinking about how we operate in the city and like, well, maybe it should be 2 hours, and that would cover us, and it would be fair. So the request is to add that 1 hour, but to amend that to 2 if a council was so willing to do that. And that would just cover us, and it would be probably the right way to treat our employees. And with that, I'm happy to take questions.
Aren't you excited? I have questions.
I'm not surprised.
I know. I just, a couple of mainly clarification.
Sure.
I wanted to ask about on the 8.0406, the vacation leave. So we have a cap of 2 years, right, for accrual. So if you don't take vacation for the year, you carry that over. You can carry over up to 2 years. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir. So if you look at the table that's the starting point.
Yep,
It's in
804.
8.0401.
Yep.
It shows you what your accrual rate is.
Right.
And then whatever that rate is for the year is multiply that times 2. And that's that's a maximum balance of vacation leave you can have on. So
Right.
that will roll over, but if you get to, let's say you're a 0 to 5 year employee and you have 240 hours on the books, we roll over and you just don't accrue anymore. So,
Right.
yeah.
That was my next question. Is
It caps,
It's
yeah.
capped at 2 years based on the chart.
2 years of what you can accrue, yes.
Right. So if you're here at 11 to 15 years, you can accrue 50 hours, or 50 days, 200 hours is 25 days, so you can accrue 50 days for
That's
a
correct.
2-year period. Okay, that was just a clarification.
Mhm.
A question about sick leave cap. So you have an accrual rate on sick leave, and there is no cap here. So clarify that for me.
Yes, our current practice for staff is to accrue, every employee accrues 4 hours per pay period, and it just accrues and just keeps, some employees have quite a big balance. It does no cap on it, but it's not compensable when they terminate employment. So it just keeps going.
So if somebody's here for 30 years, they have quite a big balance.
If they never took any sick time, yes,
Right,
sir, it
yeah.
would be pretty large, yeah.
But it does not get paid if they leave or they're terminated. Sick leave does not get paid.
Correct, right. There's no cash value to it.
Have y'all considered a cap? Because that could be pretty substantial. I'm just curious.
We didn't talk about it, but I think there's some stop gaps in place, like FMLA leave, like there's 12 weeks of leave that we have to guarantee. We could also, employees could go into a leave without pay status if that's something that worked for the city. So there's some other ways to manage that. I mean, but it's up to the council. If the council wants to cap it, that's completely your call.
Well, I don't have any data to support any kind of recommendation because I don't know what the world does. And maybe in the comp study, wherever our gentleman went. Will that be part of the comp study? Will he determine if that's part of their compensation?
It could be. I mean, they do look at. We focused in the presentation a lot on the salary comparisons tonight, but they do a comparison of benefits as well. So I don't think it's part of their scope to give us a recommendation on a cap, but they do compare what our different benefit levels are to vacation, sick, and also health insurance percentages. All of our benefits. So they do compare those.
So, I mean, I don't have a recommendation or a suggestion at this point, but I think when we get the comp study, let's take a look at that and see what is done there, because I want to be fair to the employees. I also want to be fair to the city, right? Because someone could be gone for a year with pay. I don't know if that's reasonable or not. I don't know. I think it's something to consider.
Yeah, from a hourly basis, that's conceivable. Like Jim said, we have a long-term employee, but Jim also mentioned that we do have FMLA provisions that this chapter now outlines in detail, which we didn't have before. The policy predates FMLA, but the threshold there is 12 weeks. So by default, it's not necessarily an unlimited sick leave use.
Again, we can take that up later. I just wanted to highlight that. The other last question is FMLA for let's see, under the qualified leave, is this applied to men and women, the 12 weeks? So paternity leave and maternity leave, is that equally applied for men and women?
Yes, that would be eligible.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to be sure that was clear. Okay. I have no other questions. Thank you.
Anybody else? Thanks, Keith. Anybody have any questions here tonight? Then can I get a motion, with the one change recommended that 2 hours be provided for voting? Was that
Yes, sir, that would be appreciated.
okay?
Oh, and well, it's in the draft, so if you wanted to amend it back, yes, you could amend it back.
To approve a resolution amending the City of Fair Oaks Ranch's personnel policies. Can I get a motion?
I so move.
From Laura, and a second.
Second.
Keith. Any other discussion from council? With the motion on the table, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, sir.
And our last consideration item tonight is consideration and possible action to approve the first reading of an ordinance of the City Council of City of Fair Oaks Ranch, Texas, amending Chapter 1, General Provisions, Article 1.08, Boards, Commissions, and Committees, Section 1.08.001, Municipal Development District Board of Directors of the City of Fair Oaks Ranch Code of Ordinances. And I'll turn it over to Scott to kick us off.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is a new first reading of a revised ordinance amending the composition of the MDD Board of Directors. As council will recall, we previously approved an earlier version of this ordinance on first reading, but postponed the second reading at the last meeting to allow the MDD Board additional time to review and provide feedback. The MDD Board did meet on April 9th and adopted a revised set of recommendations which are reflected in the ordinance before you tonight. So the primary changes include removing the place designations for the board seats. The ordinance does limit the MDD Board composition to no more than 2 city council members and no more than 1 FORHA member. It does specifically state FORHA. And it also provides clarity in sections 3 and 4 on how to proceed when a board member's role changes midterm, such as being elected to the city council or FORHA, or also coming off of said bodies. Again, these updates are intended to resolve some of the issues with term alignment and maintaining a non-council perspective on the MDD as well. That was one thing that was made clear in the MDD recommendation, which was voted upon, and the changes are detailed in Exhibit A of the ordinance. You do have a substitute in front of you, at least I hope you do. The only change is in sections 3 and 4, where we specifically reference the Fair Oaks Ranch Homeowners Association as opposed to just generic homeowners association. That was the intent all along. That was what was voted on to be recommended by the MDD. We just missed it in the packet. So the only change is to make sure sections 3 and 4 specifically reference FORHA rather than just homeowners association. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions?
I might make just a comment, Mayor.
Sure.
I'm glad the MDD got to meet and, discuss it and come back with a motion. And I will say from my perspective, this ordinance or the previous ordinance were sufficient. So I don't have a problem with this ordinance. I think it clarifies some things for the council. But the council always had the right to make changes to the MDD at will and, without cause. So I would just say that I'm glad that MDD was able to meet and talk through it and just at least clarify a few administrative things like referencing the FORHA organization and just clarifying a little bit about term changes and so forth. But from my perspective, the existing ordinance or this ordinance pretty much are consistent with each other. This just seems to be more clear.
If I can add some context for those that were not at the MDD board meeting, the vote I think was 6-1. My vote, I sort of deferred to the consensus majority, and then the one nay was Mike Lovelace, and I talked to him, and he was not in favor of B 3 and 4, just so everyone's sort of on the same page of how that went.
Any other questions or comments from council? Any comments or questions from anybody here tonight? And for council, what we're considering tonight would be a changed or a modified portion that was in the council packet that has paragraphs 3 and 4. A copy was handed out to all council members. Okay. And can I get a motion to approve the first reading of an ordinance amending the City of Fair Oaks Ranch's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 1, General Provisions, Article 1.08, Boards, Commissions, and Committees, Section 1.08.001, Municipal Development District Board of Directors? And can I get a motion? From Emily, and a second?
I second.
Laura? Any other discussion or comments from council? With the motion on the table, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. And that completes the consideration items that we had on the agenda tonight. We do have, I believe it's one workshop item, which is to go through and discuss the fiscal year 2025-26 strategic action plan. And this is the first step in our budget process, and I'll turn it over to Jim.
Yes, sir, Mayor. Thank you. Jim Williams, Assistant City Manager, round 3 tonight. The strategic plan, this agenda item is in, it's at page 136 in your packet. Never thought I'd say page 136 in a packet, but here we are. It's also in Exhibit A in your packet. It has a list of projects that are about to start or are in progress. And then Exhibit B is a summary rundown of all the things that have happened since 2019. It's actually quite an impressive list of things. So we'll get started here. So what we're going to go through tonight is just a real quick strategic action plan, a high-level view We'll discuss, hopefully have a discussion about emerging enablers and challenges. And when I say enablers and challenges, if you've ever seen a SWOT analysis, it's really the same thing, it's those same words. But it's really the forces that are playing on us and playing against us and what's going on now. And staff took a quick look at that and definitely would like to see council, or hear council's thoughts on that. We'll do a recap of the FY 2024-25 performance of the SAP, and then go through the staff recommendations for the 25-26 SAP adjustments, which you'll see those things show up in the budget process. And then obviously open discussion, council direction, because it's a work session. Now, I'll say that the next steps after this, in alignment with the budget, what I'll do is I'll come back sometime in May with a resolution adopting the plan that we've discussed. So everything in the packet that you see, plus any amendments to that, I'll reduce that down to a resolution, and we'll put that in front of the council. Okay, so what do we want to accomplish tonight? We want to review this SAP. Are the work priorities that the staff is running hard on, is that in line with what the council wants done? So let's keep that in mind. We want to reinforce this plan into all the programs and services that we're offering. For example, if we're in the business of making lemonade, are we going out and making chocolate chip cookies? Like, are we aligned, okay? And then identify at the end of the night, and through this process, really what we want to do is identify the priorities for the upcoming budget season. I've already said that. So, mission and vision. I won't belabor that, but most folks have read that. They know what it is. But the gist of a vision statement is, it's a statement that gives long longitudinal direction for an organization. It should be inspiring, and it should motivate stakeholders, council members, staff, residents to be inspired about what the future brings. The mission statement should basically lay out what it is we do every day, day in and day out, to get the job done in the city. So you guys have read that. And then here at the city, we use a strategic plan hierarchy that flows from pillars down into projects, and then in the projects part, it's upside down, but that's okay. The important stuff's at the top, but really the bulk of the work that you'll see, the most effort is done in this area. It's actually doing the work, the day-to-day work to achieve these outcomes up top here. But in the pillar section, these are long-term outcomes. It's kind of hard to measure them. It's kind of like if it's a duck, it looks like a duck, it's probably a duck kind of thing. Can't really measure it. But the priorities, this is where you're really starting to get down in the weeds and starting to measure things. And then the projects, these are the activities that have a start, a stop, and something got done. So that's how you break that all down. So in 2019, the City Council ended up with these basic 5 strategic plan pillars. These are the long-term outcomes that they were looking to achieve. And I'll just refresh real quick. We wanted this long-term financial resilience and responsibility piece kind of taken care of. We were looking for a reliable and sustainable infrastructure. We were very interested in public health and safety and doing well at that. Responsible growth management. The city's growing. How do we do that responsibly? And then how do we run the business day to day? Those are the 5 big ones. So, emerging enablers and challenges. And so we brought this up because the world has changed since 2019. So a lot of the assumptions that went into the 2019 plan, a lot of things that happened since 2019, they were not assumptions in the 2019 plan. For example, we had a pandemic right after the plan was adopted. We had this Texas winter storm thing that popped up. We had this massive inflation surge, but Uvalde had a school shooting, right? There's a lot of things that were pulling and tugging on the city that happened after the plan, so the plan starts to atrophy after that. So my foot stomp on this right here, and I'll say it again in the recap at the end, is our 2019 plan has probably run its course. It's probably time for another look, and I'll show you where I'm getting to in just a minute. Staff also did an emerging and a kind of current staff observations, and I won't go through all of them, but we're sitting around one morning at a SAP huddle. We have one every other week or so and talk about how we're performing on the plan, and we did this exercise, and we just brainstormed enablers and challenges. And some staff are asking, like, well, which ones are good and which ones are bad? Well, at this point, they're enabling us or challenging us. We need to address them both, whether they're good or bad. If they're pulling on us, we need to address it. If they're helping us, we need to reinforce it. So we just listed a few, like, for example, police recruiting and retention. It's really good right now. It's really, really good. We just talked about leave. We have a high leave accrual in the organization right now. 25% of the staff has a leave balance that's either at their maximum or within 2 periods of getting there. That could be a problem, right? We have fewer citizen complaints. We have a really great transparency portal. Here's another one right here. There's a lot of communications channels in the city right now. There's a ton of them. It's really kind of hard to listen to what's going on in the city because there's so much stuff going on. But that's just one group. Another group is we're really healthy as a city fiscally. We're the envy of a lot of other cities right now, so that's a good thing. We have a lot more citizen involvement in boards and commissions than we had back in 2019. We also have cyber threats. As we develop more technology, it opens up our aperture for cyber threats. So we have to manage that. What's going on in the global economy and U.S. fiscal policy changes? How's that going to affect us? I know Mr. Warwick asked a very good question last week. What are we doing about tariffs? And how are we getting ready for that? And we're doing something about that. Okay? So we have a lot of really good things going on in the organization right now. We also have some things that are tugging at us we need to address. All right, so let's look at plan performance across the different pillars, and I'll go through some notable achievements. In the financial resilience and responsibility pillar, we've done quite a bit. We have water, wastewater, and wastewater rates. Those studies are done. We're really doing quite well. We have started to do monthly, quarterly financial reports. That's a good thing. We've implemented an entire procurement function since 2019, and it's really serving us well. Gold star, right? What else? We have beefed up our master plans, water CIP, a wastewater CIP, a drainage CIP. All those good things have happened, and we're taking action from those things right now. They're helping us prioritize our work. And we've done upgrades to the UDC and comp plan since then also. Those are just some notable achievements since 2019 in the financial resilience and responsibility lane. Going forward for this year, this is what we see. It's in your packet. This is what we see is kind of left to do in the plan. There's a number of these items that are the projects that are still going on, and we'll probably knock them out this year. If they don't get knocked out this year, we'll probably wrap them up in the next year. So it's evidence that we're kind of running its course. The plan's running its course. Like, for example, which one was it? I had it down here. Oh, internal controls for financial operational risks. I think that's pretty much getting wrapped up right now. We'll probably scratch that off the list here pretty soon, plus a number of other things. Update impact of the water impact fees, the wastewater impact fees, that's ongoing right now, so we'll be able to check those off here real soon. So you can see there's a lot of white space on the right. We're kind of coming to the end. Okay, plan performance in the growth management, responsible growth management. We've had some very notable achievements there also. We have a backflow prevention compliance program now that we didn't have before, right? We implemented the solids handling infrastructure at the wastewater treatment plant. We've installed SCADA upgrades across our water treatment system. We have wastewater treatment phase 1 expansion has been done. We have a design and maintenance drainage program, and we completed the city hall renovation. Very good things that we've done. Coming up in the next year or so, these are the things left on the deck. Like, for example, the building codes, this was considered by the council already, so we'll probably check this off real soon here. It was just implemented, the final implementation. UDC, we're looking at UDC updates right now. Those should be wrapping up here pretty soon, plus a bunch of other things that are just coming at us. We're getting to the end on this. Okay. Which one's that one? Reliable and sustainable infrastructure. Plan performance. Got ahead of myself here. So we've had a number of, I got ahead of myself, I apologize. So we've had a number of notable achievements in this section. The drought contingency plan, we've done Post Oak Trail reconstruction, we've had Tivoli Way. Those are just a few of a number of projects that have gotten done, accomplished. And as you can see in the sustainable infrastructure, remaining tasks to do on the plan, we're getting close to the end. The drought contingency plan, Kelsey updated that, and we're just in the final implementation stages of that, and we're pretty much live. We can check that one off. there's a number of those tasks on there right now. Public safety and health, we've done a number of really great things in that lane. We have a standards and cover utilization study that is done. We have continuity of leadership programs in place. We've developed a school resource officer program. We have done multiple security upgrades in court, and we've gotten the court backlogs straightened out. So we've made progress. What's left to do? Just a few things left on the list here. And if you notice that the developing the continuing education outreach programs, there's nothing left in the list. We've knocked all the projects that were identified off already. So we've made a lot of good progress. We do have a proposed ask, and again, there's others in here in the work plan for this one. We want to develop an emergency management training, testing, and evaluation program that hooks with our EOC. So if we've got an EOC plan updated this last year, we've actually run that EOC plan in live EOC operations. And one of the things that has popped out on that is we probably need to up our game on testing and training on that. And we can wrap that up. On the how we run the organization, the operational excellence piece, get to my page here. We've got a ton of strategic communications efforts accomplished. We are way, way better at that now than we were a few years ago. We've got lots of more community engagement opportunities for the community than we had before. We have a case management system for municipal court. We didn't have that, right? We have an agenda management system that gets our agendas out to the public in a nice professional way. Lots of notable achievements in that sector. We have a number of things still left to do, like the employee handbook that should be wrapped up here real soon. Another one was the, what was the other one here? The compensation and benefit plan. We just heard from Mr. Fuchs. That is in progress right now. So a number of these are gonna exit off the plan this year. We do have a request to proposal to add some social listening tools to improve our capability of just listening to all those channels. And with that, we would probably, there's a number of systems that provide that, but they also provide community survey and community polling systems too. They're hooked onto those same systems. And then the other one was a crisis communication plan to hook into our EOP, Emergency Operations Plan. So I went through this pretty quick. Oh, one more. Last ones. We also have the IT master plan that is in progress right now. I put that as TBD because I know we're pretty confident that when that plan is released, we're going to get some tasks. We're going to get some things that we need to take care of pretty quick. So I just want to put that on the council's radar. That we don't know what that is now, but by the time we get to the budget, that should be pretty clear. So we went through that pretty quick. Council questions and direction. I got Ms. Valdez. She's going to try to help me take notes if there's things you want to change or add, so we can keep track of it.
Go ahead, Laura.
One, there are how many pages of completed projects? I mean, I was part of this group that created every one of these pillars and stuff, and to imagine that in the 5 years since then, we would be so accomplished that we're able to get this all done. The one thing I do want to praise staff, and for council members, if you don't notice, when you look at your packet and you look before every single agenda item, there is a section in the cover sheet that shows how every agenda item aligns to our strategic action plan. And when people ask, why are we working on this? Well, normally staff just doesn't come up with ideas. They're literally executing the plan that we have approved, and the budget goes directly to every single one of these projects that we told them to do through updating the strategic action plan, assigning money for the budget, and then every agenda item we ask be aligned to that. Now, are there some agenda items from time to time that are emergency that weren't part of the plan? Absolutely. But for the most part, it is very impressive how every single time when I get asked, like, why are we looking at this? Well, because it's aligned to this project on our strategic action plan that City Council sat down and determined was really important for the pathway for the city. I'm just really impressed with how far we've come. And you're going to start me on my trail of retirement here and talking about the amazing things that staff has accomplished, and, but this is a list. And I'm really happy to see that we're getting close to the end and it's time to look for some more things. Great job, everyone. And thanks for bringing this forward.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Mayor, just to close out, I neglected to mention this, but the foot stomp, the takeaway for this work session is there's really three. I know I presented a lot of information. We actually whittled a ton of stuff down, so we wouldn't be here till midnight. But really the takeaways are, and Ms. Kerner mentioned, that plans likely run its course, and that's fine. Those things happen. We've done a really good job. We're probably the envy of a lot of cities right now, and we'll be coming back in May. So I just want to point, those are the three things to take away from this.
And just so I understand, since I won't be here in May, all the ones in orange are new projects that staff is proposing that fall under the pillars of our strategic plan.
Yes, ma'am. Those are
Okay.
projects where we feel like we could up our game in those pillars or in those priorities under those pillars.
And with the city council voting to add it to the strategic action plan, that's essentially directing you to put a budget line item to pay for that, or at least plan for a year to do it in.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
And just to be clear, some of those will require, may require a budget line, some may not. Just
It may
get
take your
that value.
time.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Time.
So Jim, so we're looking at, you'll bring this back in May and we'll approve this SAP for the budget season that we're about to go through. And then we're looking at updating this for the future year.
Yes, sir. What I would,
After we get through budget.
yes, sir. So what I would do is I would bring back a resolution basically laying the course for the next fiscal year, and then also directing staff to get busy on starting the next SAP planning piece. So we'll get busy probably right after the budget is passed, or sometime around the budget is passed, probably having the work sessions and all the things you need to do to make a really good SAP, assuming the council, approves that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anything else to add? Any questions from anyone here tonight? All right.
I don't know how you guys plan to, Greg, you and I were both part of when we built this, right?
Yes.
We took a day, like on a Friday, and we went over to the Bernie Library, and we just were stuck in a room with stickies and saying, what do you want? And at the end, we got this. So it might be worth the time to sequester yourself. It's still a public meeting, but still,
Thanks, Jim.
Yes, sir.
That includes the workshop item that we had on the schedule for tonight. Is there any council member that have any announcements that they'd like to present?
I've got one. Just to help the continual quest of getting information out to those in the public, I'm going to be at Spotted Deer on April 26th from 10 to 11:30. If anybody wants to come out from the city, ask any questions that they have about council, about things we've talked about, except for executive session, we can't cover those. But I'm just going to be there, and people can come field questions and have a cup of coffee with me. So that's April 26th, 10 to 11:30 at Spotted Deer.
Anybody else?
Voting starts next week, and we'll remind you again at the next meeting about Election Day.
Yeah, just to follow on to that, Election Day is May 3rd. Early voting starts on the 22nd, runs through the 29th. For Fair Oaks Ranch residents, for early voting, you can vote here in this room, or you can also vote at the Kendall County Courthouse Annex for early voting. And then on Election Day, May 3rd, you can also vote in here, and you can also vote at the City Hall of Bernie. And yes, we'll continue to remind. Encourage everyone to get out and vote. Any other announcements? Got a couple more. Just a reminder, City Hall will be closed tomorrow in observance of Good Friday. And then I have two kind of recognitions. National Volunteer Recognition Week is April 20th through the 26th. And established in 1974, the purpose is to recognize the contributions of the many volunteers in our community. And when I looked at this, it kind of stood out to me because the city of Fair Oaks Ranch in its origin 40 years ago was operated solely by volunteers. And as the city grew, many of the staff positions transitioned to paid professionals to run our city services. But we still have a council along with boards, committees, and commissions, and along with individuals that continue to volunteer their time to help preserve the unique atmosphere around what we have here as part of Fair Oaks Ranch. So due to the welcoming character of the people that live in Fair Oaks Ranch, you'll find that many people donate their time and service for worthy causes. And what I'd ask is that we just please remember to recognize those individuals the week of April 20th for their volunteer service and honestly for the impact that they continue to make on our community. The second recognition that I'd like to make is National Administrative Professional Day is on April 23rd, 2025. And I'd like to recognize the administrative professionals that work here as part of our city services. Kimberly Corbin and Audra Duran are our front desk personnel. Brianna Lopez and Yvonne Medina, who work here in the police department. Jennifer Coots is our utility clerk. Receives a lot of comments about when water bills go out. Rachel Brown, who works in our building codes, and Amanda Wade, who works in public works. And all of them continuously demonstrate the utmost courtesy while providing exceptional quality service to our residents and also to our city staff. Their daily service is critical to the seamless operations of this city and ensuring that we maintain a well-run organization. And what I'd like to do tonight is encourage everyone, staff, council, and all our residents to contact these individuals on April 23rd and to thank them for what they do every day to support our city, our council, and our staff. And Scott, that's all I got. Any other announcements that I missed?
No, sir, I think you covered it.
And no need to go into executive session tonight?
No, sir.
Christine, anything that I missed?
Just in case anyone wanted anything on a future agenda.
No.
Item number 19.
I did miss it. Thank you. No? All right. We're good. Thank you, Christina. Appreciate the backup. Always looking out for me and taking me. Scott, anything else we need to?
No, sir.
All right. I have the time now is 8:51 and we are adjourned.